Okay, I want you to try a quick visualization with me. Picture a timeline of human history. Just stretch it all the way out in your mind. Thousands and thousands of years. For, 99.9% of that timeline, if you had a baby, you dealt with their hygiene needs exactly the way you dealt with their hunger. You watched them, they'd signal, and you'd respond.
Right. There was no product in between. It was just a direct feedback loop between the parent and the child.
Exactly. But then, in this tiny, tiny fraction of a second, at the very end of the timeline, we're talking the last 70 years or so, we invented a technology that completely severed that connection. The disposable diaper.
And now we look back at the way humans did it for millennia, and we call that the weird alternative method.
It's a classic case of cultural amnesia, isn't it?
Yeah.
We've normalized this invention so completely that the biological norm now seems radical. We just assume that diapers are what babies are supposed to do.
Which is exactly what we're going to unpack today. We are digging into a stack of sources that, and I mean this, they challenge everything we think we know about potty training.
Yeah, everything. We have a huge 2025 global integrative review of the scientific literature. We've got practical guides from the Go Diaper Free movement and some very strong critiques from pediatric therapists who are, pretty skeptical.
And the central question we're trying to answer isn't just how do we get kids out of diapers faster? That's just the surface.
Right.
The deeper question is this. By outsourcing a basic biological function to a piece of plastic for 3 years, are we actually creating the very problems we're so desperate to avoid later on? The bedwetting, the UTIs, the constipation.
The topic, I guess the technical term for it, is assisted infant toilet training, or AITT. But if you're on parenting blogs, you've probably heard it called elimination communication, or ECC.
And our mission for this deep dive is to figure out if this is a lost art we need to bring back, or if it's just, unnecessary pressure on parents who are already completely exhausted.
Let's be honest, modern parenting is stressful enough without adding stare at your baby for a magic peace signal to the to-do list. So before we get into the mechanics, because I know you're all wondering how on earth you potty train a newborn without going crazy, we should probably clarify the terms. Why the two names, AITT and EC?
It's mostly about context. Assisted infant toilet training is the clinical medical term. You'll see that in research papers, especially when they're studying low and middle income countries where, diapers just aren't the default. It frames it as a physiological thing.
Assisting a bodily function. Yeah, that makes sense. Whereas elimination communication sounds a bit more relational, I guess.
It sounds softer. Yeah, that's the term that's really favored by practitioners in the West. It puts the focus on the relationship, the idea that you're communicating with the baby about their needs, not training them like an animal.
I think that's a really crucial distinction because when I first heard of this, I pictured someone, holding up flashcards to a 2-month-old. But it's not about the baby knowing what to do.
No.
It's about the parent learning what to do.
Precisely. In our standard Western model, we put all the burden of readiness on the child. We say, we'll wait until you can walk, talk, pull your pants down, and tell us you have to go. EC just flips that entire script. It says the baby is ready from birth to eliminate. They just need our help with the logistics.
So let's talk about those logistics because, I've seen newborns. They're floppy. They can't even hold their heads up. How does this actually work in practice?
It all comes down to a framework that Dr. Anna Kaplan and a guide called The Home Intent break down into 4 parts. The first one is pure biology, timing.
And that's predictable in a newborn.
More than you'd think. A newborn's metabolic loop is super fast. They eat, they sleep, they pee. It often happens every 10 to 20 minutes when they're awake. But the golden rule, the one that almost all babies share, is transitions.
Transitions.
Babies almost universally need to eliminate the second they wake up.
So that's your first catch. Baby wakes up, diaper comes off, you head for the potty.
Exactly. The second component is signals. And this is where parents start to realize they've been seeing these things all along. They were misinterpreting them. You know how a parent learns the difference between a hungry cry and a tired cry?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The tired cry is kind of whiny and nasally. The hungry one is just urgent. You learn that one really fast.
Right. Well, there are elimination signals too. It might be a specific little squirm, a pee-pee dance where they kick their legs, a grunt, or, and this is a really common one, a sudden focused stillness. The poop face.
We've all seen the poop face. But usually we see it, we laugh, we wait for them to finish, and then we go get the wipes.
Right. You're acknowledging the signal, but your response is reactive. You're waiting for the mess to happen. EC just suggests a proactive response. You see the face, you see the squirm, and you immediately remove the diaper.
Okay, so you see the signal, you act. That takes us to the third component, which, I gotta be honest, sounds a little bit like Pavlov's dog. It's cueing.
It is a form of conditioning, but it's associative learning, which is how babies learn basically everything. When the baby is in position and they start to go, the parent makes a specific sound. The common one is pss for urine, or a little grunt for a bowel movement.
And the idea is that over time, the sound itself triggers the action.
It triggers the relaxation. That's the key. You're not forcing anything out. You're creating a sound cue that tells the infant's nervous system, okay, it is safe to relax the pelvic floor now. You're building that mind-body connection.
That makes sense. It's a safety signal. And what's the fourth component?
Intuition. And this one is the hardest to explain to a data-driven audience, but parents who do this consistently all report that after a while, they just know. It's probably just a subconscious processing of all the timing and the tiny signals we just talked about.
It still sounds pretty intense. If I'm a new parent, I'm sleep deprived, I haven't showered, the thought of watching my baby like a hawk for a specific squirm sounds exhausting.
And that's the number one barrier. People think they can't add one more thing, but the Home Intent source has this great bridge for beginners called the 4 easy catches. It basically says, don't even try to catch everything. Just aim for the obvious ones.
Okay, so what are the obvious ones?
1, when they wake up, easiest one by far. 2, at every diaper change, the diaper's already off, you're there anyway, why not just hold them over the potty for 30 seconds?
That one actually saves you time, if you think about it. If they pee in the potty, they don't pee in the fresh diaper 5 minutes after you put it on.
Exactly. 3, when they are very obviously pooping. And 4, during transitions, like taking them out of a car seat or a baby carrier, that compression often stimulates the bladder, so they need to go as soon as they get out.
See, that feels manageable. It's not this all or nothing diaper-free or bust thing. It's just taking the opportunity when it's right there. But we have to talk about the physical part. You're not just sitting a 3-month-old on a little plastic potty chair, right? They just fall over.
Oh, please don't do that, no. The technique is called the hold. You support the baby's back against your chest, and you hold them under their thighs, which puts them into a deep squat over, a small bowl, the sink, or a little top hat potty.
And this isn't just about making sure they don't fall. The sources were really clear that the squat itself is doing some important work here.
This is a huge physiological point that gets missed all the time. When we're sitting on a toilet or especially lying flat in a diaper, it actually puts a kink in our internal plumbing. It creates an angle in the anorectal canal that helps keep things in.
Like pinching a garden hose.
But that's the perfect analogy. And squatting unkinks the hose. It straightens that angle, which means the baby can empty their bowel and bladder more completely and with a lot less straining. So by holding them in that squat, you are literally mechanically helping them empty the tank.
Which just brings us to the big why. Why did we ever stop doing this? Because when you look at the data, the U.S. is. We're the anomaly.
A massive outlier. In Vietnam, it's totally normal for babies to be out of diapers by 9 to 24 months. In Thailand, something like 92% of babies start this process between 4 and 12 months.
92% by age 1. Meanwhile, in the U.S., the average age is creeping up towards 3, sometimes even 4 years old.
And if you go back to 1947, right here in the U.S., 60% of kids were trained by 18 months. So this shift is really, really recent, just a couple of generations.
So what happened? Did human bladders suddenly evolve in the last 70 years?
No, but our marketing did. This all ties back to the readiness model. In 1962, a doctor named T. Barry Brazelton published these hugely influential guidelines that advocated for a child-oriented approach. He said we shouldn't rush, we should wait for signs of independence.
Which sounds lovely. Who wants to rush their child? It sounds very gentle and respectful.
It sounds incredibly humane, but an analysis by nurse Rebecca Mottram points out a major conflict of interest that gets left out of the story. Dr. Brazelton was employed by Pampers.
There it is.
He was a paid consultant. Now, to be fair, he probably genuinely believed in his method. But the diaper industry had a massive financial incentive to make his message as loud as possible. If you can shift the average potty training age from 18 months to 36 months, you have literally doubled your revenue per customer.
That is a staggering amount of money.
Yeah.
And a staggering amount of waste, too.
Yeah.
We should touch on the environmental numbers from that Hindmarsh review.
They're heavy. A single disposable diaper takes around 500 years to decompose. The average baby uses thousands of them. The review estimates that just using AITT can reduce a child's carbon footprint by about 550 kilograms of CO2.
150 kilograms. That's a huge impact for one little person.
It is. But let's play devil's advocate for a second. Because the skeptics in our sources, people like pediatric therapist Quiara Smith and Dr. Steve Hodges, they're not worried about landfills. They're worried about the child's body.
Right. This is the part that really gave me pause. Their argument is that babies under 12 months physically cannot control their bladder. The nerve pathways just aren't myelinated yet. So they claim EC is just a parlor trick. It's the parent being trained, not the baby.
That's argument number one, that it's all just lucky timing. But their second, more serious claim is about something they call chronic holding. Dr. Hodges warns that if you focus on this too early, you might accidentally teach the child to hold their urine and stool just to please you.
And holding is bad.
Chronic holding is very bad. It can thicken the bladder wall, cause constipation, and ironically, it can lead to more accidents because the bladder gets desensitized. Dr. Hodges' view is that diapers are safe because they let the baby go purely on reflex with zero pressure.
So the skeptic's view is basically leave them alone, let them use the diaper, and deal with it when they're older and cognitively ready. Otherwise, you risk real damage.
That is the prevailing medical advice in the West, but the 2025 Global Integrative Review by Hindmarch and his team kind of drops a bomb on this whole theory.
This is the data out of China, right?
Yes. They looked at these huge observational studies comparing kids who did AITT, the early training, versus kids who followed the Western wait until ready model. Now, if Dr. Hodges was right, the early trainer should have all sorts of bladder problems.
You should have more accidents, more issues.
But they didn't. It was the exact opposite. Let's just look at overactive bladder. The rate was 8.5% in the early training group, but it was 13.3% in the late training group.
So waiting longer increased the risk.
Significantly. And check this one out. Deadwetting, the thing that drives parents crazy. It was 3.4% in the early trainers versus 14.1% in the late trainers.
Wow. That is not a small difference. 3.4 versus 14%, I mean, that's huge.
And for what they call disposable diaper dependence, kids who literally feel like they can't go unless they have a diaper on, it was 2.4% versus 9.4%.
Okay, so how do we make sense of this? Why does the actual data seem to completely contradict the chronic holding theory?
The review suggests that we've just misunderstood the whole mechanism. The skeptics think early training causes holding, but this data suggests that diapers might encourage what you could call a lazy bladder.
A lazy bladder, what does that mean?
Well, think about it. If you spend 3 years of your life eliminating into a super-absorbent polymer that whisks all the moisture away instantly, you never feel wet. You never connect the sensation of a full bladder with the consequence of release.
You lose the feedback loop.
You lose a feedback loop. Your bladder just voids partially whenever it feels like it without the brain ever really getting involved in the process.
And AITT keeps that loop intact.
It preserves it. And remember the squatting position. The research shows that infants who squat to go empty their bladders more completely than babies who are lying down in a diaper, and incomplete emptying is a major risk factor for UTIs, so you're actually flushing the system better.
That completely turns the danger argument on its head. It makes it sound like not doing this might be the riskier path, physiologically.
Right.
But we have to get to the psychology. Because even if the biology works, toddlers are... well, they're toddlers.
Ah, yeah. Yes. The infamous potty pause.
This seems to be the exact moment where most parents who try EC just give up. You've got this great routine going, the baby is maybe a year old, you're catching all the P's, you feel like a parenting genius, and then overnight, total rebellion.
It is so common right around 12 to 16 months, and it's heartbreaking for the parents because they feel like they failed. They think the whole thing is broken or the baby forgot.
But the sources, like Kirst Connor and Andrea Olson, they say this isn't forgetting. This is asserting.
It's a developmental milestone. Think about it. When a kid is just learning to walk, do they want to lie still for a diaper change?
No way.
Do they want to stop playing to go sit on a potty? No. They're discovering autonomy. They are realizing for the first time, I am my own person and I can say no to you.
So the toddler's just experimenting with control. What happens if I hold it? What happens if I say no? What happens if I just pee on the floor instead?
It's a science experiment for them, and this is where the parent's reaction is everything. If you get into a power struggle, you will sit on the potty. The child is going to win every single time. You cannot physically force a child to relax their sphincter.
So what's the move? The sources had some really counterintuitive advice about how to talk to them.
The advice is, stop asking questions.
Which is so hard, because we're taught to be respectful. Do you need to use the potty? It feels polite. It feels like you're giving them a choice.
It is polite, but you're giving a yes-no question to a creature whose default answer to everything is no. If you ask a toddler, do you want to put your shoes on? They say no. If you ask, do you need to pee? They say no, even while they're doing the potty dance right in front of you.
So you have to switch the statements.
You become a calm, confident leader. You say, it is time to pee, or I see you're wiggling, let's go sit on the potty. You remove the decision-making, you just make it a fact of life, like brushing your teeth.
And you give them control over the process.
Yeah.
That was the other big tip.
Yes. You don't give them control over whether they go, but you let them control all the buttons. You can pull down your own pants, you flush the toilet, you turn on the water. That satisfies their drive for autonomy without compromising the actual boundary.
I like that. It shifts the battlefield.
Yeah.
But even with the best strategies, accidents are going to happen. And in our culture, accidents are treated with so much shame.
That's the biggest social hurdle. If you're doing EC and your 18-month-old has an accident at daycare or at grandma's house, you get judged. People say, see, they're not ready. You're pushing them.
It's so funny because if a kid falls down while they're learning to walk, nobody says, see, they're not ready to walk. Put them back in the stroller for 6 months.
That is the perfect analogy. We accept stumbling as a normal part of learning to walk, but we see a wet pair of pants as a total failure of potty training. We have to reframe accidents as just data points. Oops, pants are wet, let's go get some dry ones. No drama, no shame.
Okay, so if we zoom all the way out, we have a method that's historically normal, it's better for the environment, and the data suggests it's actually better for long-term bladder health. But it takes time, it takes attention. Does it have to be all or nothing? I feel like that's the fear.
And that is probably the most important takeaway from this whole deep dive. It is absolutely not all or nothing. Part-time EC is a totally valid, beneficial approach.
What does that look like in practice?
It could mean you only do the morning catch. Baby wakes up, you put him on the potty, you catch that first huge pee of the day, and then you use diapers the rest of the time. No stress.
You've still saved 365 diapers a year with just that one simple catch.
Exactly. And more importantly, you have kept that neural connection alive for the child. They still know that the potty is an option. You haven't completely overwritten their natural instincts with the diaper is the only toilet habit. Even just doing it on weekends makes a difference.
That makes it feel so much more accessible. It's not some lifestyle cult you have to join. It's just a hygiene habit you can dial up or down depending on your life.
It helps to reframe the diaper as a tool, not a toilet. It's just a backup, like underwear. Instead of a portable bathroom, they're strapped into 24/7.
I want to close with a thought that really stuck with me from this skepticism section. We spend so much energy worrying that early training is going to cause psychological damage or, create these control issues.
Right. We're afraid we're going to traumatize them by taking the diaper away too soon.
But they'll flip the script for a second. Imagine if we taught a child to eat by, I don't know, just mashing food into their face for 3 years. And then suddenly at age 3, we said, okay, that's gross. Now here's a fork. Use it perfectly.
We would expect a pretty difficult transition. We'd expect a lot of resistance.
Of course we would. So here's the final question to think about. Is the difficulty of potty training something that's just inherent to being a toddler? Or have we actually manufactured that difficulty by conditioning them to ignore their own bodily signals for the first 15,000 hours of their life, only to then demand that they suddenly pay attention?
The data we've looked at today really suggests we might be creating the very problem we're trying to solve.
Something to think about the next time you're in that endless diaper aisle. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.
Thanks, everyone.